Hello, hi, welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV screen to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well, let's learn English together. And happy Easter to you all. Well now, it's the second day of the week, our special Easter week, and we're back in the studio. Yesterday, we talked about the fact that Easter has no fixed date. It's not like Christmas. Easter moves about the calendar every year. So today, we're going to start by looking at when Easter is and how we can work out when to celebrate Easter. Okay, now let's get stuck in to today's lesson with a few new words that we need to understand Easter. Okay, well, I looked on the internet and found the following sentences about Easter. In Britain, Easter occurs at a different time each year. We celebrate Easter on the first Sunday after the first full moon following the first day of spring in the Northern Hemisphere. This means that the festival can occur on any Sunday between March the 22nd and April the 25th. Not only is Easter the end of the winter, it is also the end of Lent, traditionally a time of fasting in the Christian calendar. It is therefore often a time of fun and celebration. Okay, so we know that Easter occurs at a different time each year. Good, but what about that new word, occurs? Well, the verb is to occur. Now, look at the sentence about Easter and see if you can work out what the word occurs means. See if you can think of a synonym for occurs. Look at the sentence. Look at what we're talking about. We're talking about time, aren't we? Yes, that's right. We're talking about time, about dates. We're talking about when something happens. So, occur is a synonym for happen. That's all. Great. We've learned a new synonym, occur. Fantastic. Now, occur is a verb, the verb to occur. And in the sentence about Easter, what can we see about the verb? Yes, that's absolutely correct. In the sentence we looked at, occur has an S at the end, doesn't it? Good. Now, how about a simple question? Why does it have an S at the end? That's correct. It has an S at the end because it's a regular verb. And we all know how to conjugate regular verbs in the present simple, don't we? Yes, of course we do. What we have to do is add an S to the end of the verb in the third person singular. Easter is the third person singular. So when we're talking about Easter using the verb to occur, we add an S to the end and it becomes Easter occurs. Great! And now, on we go. Let's have a look at the rest of the sentence. Now, this is where things go mad. Look at that sentence. It's mad. It's insane. It's deranged. It's batty. It's away with the fairies. And it's as nutty as a fruitcake. Okay, but still, let's have another look at it. It's time to dissect the sentence. Okay. So here's the sentence again. We celebrate Easter on the first Sunday after the first full moon following the first day of spring in the Northern Hemisphere. Okay, so where shall we start? Well, where do you think? Normally, we'd start at the start, begin at the beginning. But here, well, I think we need to start at the end and work back. So, normally, it's first things first. But now, here, with this balmy sentence, I think it'll be last things first. Okay, Northern Hemisphere. Great! What on earth is a hemisphere when it's at home? Well, a sphere is another word for a ball. A tennis ball is a sphere. A football is a sphere. A golf ball is a sphere. A rugby ball is not a sphere. A rugby ball is a prolate spheroid. This just means a squashed sphere, really. Okay, so we know that the correct geometric name for a ball is a sphere. Good. Now, think about where else we've heard the word sphere. Think about the planet Earth. Think about greenhouse gases. Think about rockets and space shuttles returning to Earth. Are there any bells ringing? Yes? Yes, that's right. Around the Earth, there is an atmosphere, isn't there? Now, what is the atmosphere? Well, it's just a collection of gases around the Earth. But it's got the word sphere in it because it forms a ball around the Earth. And the Earth is also a ball. The Earth is a sphere, which leads us back to the hemisphere. A hemisphere is half of a sphere. That's all. And what other word is in the crazy sentence we looked at? That's right, northern. The northern hemisphere. Now, the northern hemisphere is the half of the world that is north of the equator. You all know what the equator is, don't you? Well, just to make sure, the equator is the line around the Earth which divides north and south. Do you remember the verb to divide? Yes, of course you do. We learned the verb to divide when we looked at mathematics. Divide is this symbol. Do you remember when we talked about fractions? Well, when we talked about fractions, about numbers smaller than 1, we talked about two verbs we can use with fractions, to halve and to quarter. To halve means to divide something into two equal parts, and to quarter means to divide something into 4 equal parts. For example, 20 divided by 4 equals 5. 20 quartered is 5. 50 divided by 2 is 25. 50 halved is 25. Okay, so we understand that the equator divides the Earth. It creates two halves, the northern half and the southern half. Now, we're in Europe, and that means that we're in the northern hemisphere. Australia, on the other hand, is in the southern hemisphere. This means that when it's summer in Europe, it's winter in Australia. We're on opposite sides of the equator, so we have different weather at different times. When we celebrate Christmas in Europe, the weather is cold because it's winter. But when people in Australia celebrate Christmas, the weather is hot because for them it's summer. Okay, now back to the mad sentence. Now we know what the northern hemisphere is, and we know that we're in the northern hemisphere. Good. Now, what about the rest of the sentence? Well, the part of the sentence before the last bit is talking about the first day of spring. Okay, so when's the first day of spring? Well, let me just tell you what I found on the internet. This year, the first day of spring is going to be March the 20th. And don't ask me to explain why. I tried to figure it out. I tried to work it out. I tried to understand, and I got a headache and a nosebleed. So I don't think that it's really that important. Okay, let's just trust the people who know and say that the first day of spring is on the 20th of March this year. Okay, let's move on. We're in the final straight. This is the last part of the sentence. So, there are a few new words here that we need to look at. Well, we know the verb to follow, don't we? Yes, to follow means to come after. When we have a three-course meal, we normally start with soup, then we have the main course and then dessert. This means that the main course follows the soup. It comes after it, and dessert follows the main course. If I have a list of directions, then I follow them to get to my destination. When you buy a piece of furniture from Sweden, you have to follow the instructions to put it together. When James Bond is trying to find out where Mr. Big is hiding, he follows Mr. Big's personal assistant. When we make a sentence using will, we start with the subject, then follow the subject with will, and then follow will with an infinitive without to. Okay, so now, in our crazy sentence, we're talking about the first full moon, which follows the first day of spring. Okay, well, what's a full moon? A full moon is when the whole of the moon is illuminated, when we can see all of the moon. Okay, so this means what? Well, this means that we have to work out when the first full moon is after the first day of spring. And then, well, then it's easy. Then we know that the Sunday that follows, the next Sunday, that Sunday is Easter Sunday. Hooray! Okay, so let's just check that one last time. We start with the first day of spring. This year, it's March the 20th. Okay, then we have to figure out when the first full moon is after March the 20th. And then we have to identify the first Sunday. And that is Easter Sunday. Of course, it's much easier if we just look at the calendar. But, well, next year we'll just look at the calendar, okay? That's a much easier way to figure out when we need to celebrate Easter. Let someone else work it out, and then they can just tell us. Okay, so now we know how to work out when we have to celebrate Easter. But, come on, let's be honest. It's much, much, much easier to just look in a diary. Now, we're almost at the end of today's lesson, so we'll have to pick up the thread tomorrow. Tomorrow, we'll also learn some more things connected to Easter. And at some point, we have to compare how people celebrate, what they do at Easter in Britain and Hungary. Two Christian countries, one religious festival, but we do things differently. Okay then, that's our 15 minutes for the day, and we're out of time. Okay, I'll see you all tomorrow, same time, same place, and until then, well, enjoy yourselves. Eat some ham or an egg, or eat a chocolate Easter egg. And if you need more English, you all know where to head to, don't you? That's correct. Get onto the internet and put www.m5tv.hu into the address bar of your browser. Then, all you have to do is find Szólalj meg. You can either find it by looking in the list of TV programs. They're all there in alphabetical order from A to Z. Or you can type Szólalj meg into the little search box at the top of the page and then press enter. When you find us, you can watch all of our lessons and check out all of the most important vocabulary. Okay, I'm off, but I'll see you tomorrow. Just remember, I'm Gav Duncan, not Master Ken, and I'm taller than Jean-Claude Van Damme and that funny green bloke, Yoda. Okay, I'll see you all later. Have fun. Bye.